welcome back to Farage Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubin. Now, it's no secret that the government has cancelled a further 29 local elections, and here was their justification.
Well, what is happening is the biggest reorganisation of councils for 50 years, and it is only right that we ask whether it's sensible to elect people to councils that are actually going to change in their composition in a few years' time. But the government is not taking the decision on this. It's down to individual locally led decisions, and different councils have taken different positions.
The government is not taking a decision on this. But was the Prime Minister there, Sir Keir Starmer, actually being honest? Well, today, one of the Labour Party's National Executive Committee members has claimed that Labour council leaders were lent on to cancel local elections. Anne Black is a veteran member of the committee and formerly chaired it, and wrote on her blog that she passed on concerns from council workers who were asked to choose whether to hold elections and then lent on behind the scenes. So is this conclusive proof our Prime Minister is KFC, Keir the Frit Chicken? I'm joined now by the editor of the Sunday Telegraph, Allister Heath, as well as tonight's panel. That's the former Conservative Attorney General, Sir Michael Ellis, and the former Political Secretary to Tony Blair, John McTernan. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Allister, let's start with you. The Telegraph's been leading a great campaign on the fight for local democracy. There's been this whiff of suspicion that the overbearing number of councils that have cancelled have been Labour-ran. And the intimation was that that was because they were scared of losing to Reform and the like. This latest piece of information from Anne Black seems to lend gravity to that fact.
Yes, I mean, I think there's 2 points here. The first is it's a very good story and it's explosive, an explosive claim really from her, but it's not conclusive proof, of course. But nonetheless, I mean, I think it's quite obvious. It's quite obvious that these councils are not standing for re-election, that the elections will be cancelled because Labour, in particular, but also to a lesser degree the Tories, are worried about losing council seats, and that's an absolute outrage. I'm an old-fashioned person. I think the government should take decisions, right? I can't, this is very, very important. You can't just have the Prime Minister saying, it's nothing to do with us. It's just councils randomly deciding not to run elections. It's a travesty. It's nonsense. Also, I'm an old-fashioned person in a second sense. If you're the leader of a political party, you should be able to impose on members of your political party to follow a certain set of principles. In this case, it is there's an election, so you need to stand for election. Democracy is good. You can't just cancel democracy willy-nilly. So I have no time at all for either the Prime Minister or anybody else, including the leader of the opposition, saying that it's got nothing to do with them, that these are just councils spontaneously deciding to cancel what really counts about Britain, which is the fact that we are a democracy.
4.5 million people now have denied the right to vote in May after Steve Reid, the local government secretary, decided to axe 29 council elections. Call me Poirot, but 21 of them are in Labour areas. 6, the Conservatives. Fair play to the Liberal Democrats. Only 1 cancellation there. They want to face the music. And today we learned that in Nuneaton, the Labour chief there, the councillor, was forced out when the Conservative, the Greens and the Liberal Democrats stood up and said he was trying to influence them because there's precise leverage from above. To you, is this just clear? It's out in the open now. Labour Party are running scared.
Well, of course they're running scared, yes. I mean, it's absolutely what's happening, and it's an outrage. It doesn't matter whether you run scared or not. Democracy is democracy. You can't just go around cancelling elections. The only possible reason to cancel an election would be, a massive war or a massive pandemic, which means people can't go to the polls. We didn't have elections for 10 years during the Second World War. But the point is, we actually had the general election in 1945 when the Second World War was still ongoing, when the Japanese front was still ongoing. So this is an outrage. It shouldn't happen. These are all nonsensical excuses. There's no excuse whatsoever. Labour's running scared. It's an outrage. And yes, Keir Starmer is KFC.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private internet access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private internet access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Thank you very much. Let's get to my panel now. John McTernan, I shall come to you first, former Secretary of Political Secretary to Tony Blair. Is this proof of what we all suspect? The Labour Party is chicken.
No, it's not. It's just a newsletter from an NEC member who's always been opposed to leadership, whoever the leadership are.
Shoot the messenger.
All of these decisions have been made by councils. The principle the Labour Party sticks to is devolution. It's in the hands of the councils. It's in the hands of the Scottish Parliament and the Welsh Senate, how they conduct themselves. And in recent history,
they're devolving power away from
in recent history, the Scottish Parliament decided to lengthen its term to 5 years, not 4 years. That was the choice of the Scottish Parliament. These are the choice of local councils. I'm quite happy that local councils choose to save their ratepayers, their council taxpayers' money by not holding an unnecessary election a year out from when they're going to be abolished and replaced.
So you're sticking to the party line. It's about saving money, not saving the blatant embarrassment.
I'm sticking to the fact that it's about devolved decision-making. It's decisions made by individual councils across the country.
So, Michael?
It's only being devolved down to local councils to make those decisions because the central government has given them the permission to make that decision, and that's what's wrong. The fact is, Allister's right to the extent that you shouldn't really, as a central government, be giving the councils the option to postpone these elections for what is effectively no reason whatsoever. I think I just heard the Prime Minister say, this is the biggest reorganisation for 50 years. I think I'm right in saying that 50 years ago, when they did the last big reorganisation, they didn't postpone any elections. So I think that's just a nonsense argument. And frankly, this will be trouble if this is litigated. And we've heard suggestions that Reform want to litigate this. And I think if that gets, if there's a deep dive into the actual rationale here, it won't help any judicial review case as far as the government are concerned.
Well, that is happening. So there is a High Court hearing, a 2-day hearing, over the days of February the 19th and 20th. Zia Youssef was in the studio here, of course, the head of policy at Reform UK. He's saying they're going to fight the Labour Party to the death. Do you think they have a chance of overturning these cancellations?
I think they have a reasonable prospect. It's difficult to know without, seeing all the legal papers. But I look, on balance, it's pretty challenging to defeat the government on something like this. But I think there's a reasonable prospect, and this will certainly aid their case. But I must say, though, Kemi Badenoch has made it quite clear these elections should go ahead.
But they didn't in 6 Conservative areas.
Well, but she can't micromanage. Once the decision has been farmed down to the local areas, her position has been that they should go ahead, and clearly they should.
But
when you're in opposition, you can't.
Councillors aren't listening to their leader. Who's in control?
Well, it's showing that parties don't dictate to local councillors,
but
which is as it should be.
The right
as it should be.
I'd argue they should, right? I think a national party should be able to dictate to members of that national party certain broad policies. So if a member of the Labour Party or the Conservative Party go out and call for voting for an opposite party, for example, those people will be expelled.
Yeah.
And they'd be expelled, and rightly so. And I think any local Labour or Conservative party that refuses to hold an election, refuses the scrutiny of the process, should be expelled, because they've got the power to do that.
Yeah, but Kemi's made her position clear. I think the main mischief here is that you're giving a power to the local councils that they shouldn't have been given, and that's the Labour government's decision to have done that.
And it's Kemi Badenoch's decision. She's precisely the same.
It's not her decision to have given
the areas.
It's Kemi's powerlessness. Let's be
Oh
fair to Kemi.
no! I think it's Keir's the one that's powerless at the moment.
OK, gentlemen, as we have Allister Heath, and once again, Allister, you've written an excellent column, and this time you're exposing the word, a glorious word, oikophobia.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
I like fun words like that. Oikophobia's got nothing to do with oiks, strangely enough. It's basically a concept that says, someone who suffers from oikophobia is somebody who doesn't really like their own country, the country's institutions, the legal system, the political culture, and so on. And my claim, which, as usual, is measured and fair and balanced, is that the Prime Minister, sadly, has become that way inclined, and that his whole attachment to human rights and to international law and to the EU and to international institutions and so on comes about because he's slightly embarrassed, as George Orwell once said, about the core tenets of English culture. I'm talking primarily here about English political culture. And I'm distraught at the fact that he spent so much energy in his formative years fighting the armed forces and, trying to, extend the reach of the ECHR and reduce British sovereignty. And I'm extremely distraught, for example, now at the Chagos betrayal, which I think is entirely wrong. And, politicians that run this country should put this country first, not in a crazy way, not in an aggressive way, but they should put this country first. They should not try and cede powers to other countries. They shouldn't be ashamed of this country. They should try and improve what's wrong, but, they should try and improve what's wrong, but not be ashamed of this country.
Well, a superb column and a superb new word, oikophobia. Thank you very much, Allister Heath, for giving us that. Now, a government spokesperson has told GB News this about the intimation that these elections have been lent upon by the NEC. They say this is categorically untrue. We took a locally led approach and listened to councils who are best placed to judge postponements in their areas. And we wrote to councils to seek clarity and did everything we could to ensure councils felt supported to make the correct decision. Thanks to Allister Heath, and thank you to my panel there.